And I bought that domain name at that McDonald's sitting on the toilet.
CanadianProtein.com.
CanadianProtein.com.
Wow.
Yeah.
How much did you buy the domain for?
$9.
So Dan, you're CEO of Canadian Protein and several other companies, and this is a $100 million e-commerce supplement store. How did this all come to be? What's the story of Canadian Protein?
Yeah, so pretty much out of high school, a couple of my buddies and I started getting into working out. And one thing we noticed when we were, interested in buying supplements to, I guess, help with, our training or working out or whatever, it was the only stuff that was available on store shelves was like the fancy stuff, high, flash and bang type products and, big sponsorships with big bodybuilders and stuff like that. It wasn't what we were really looking for. We were looking for, single amino acids, single nutritional products, simple protein powders, nothing that was, a mixture of multiple things. And the only stuff that we could find was in the US. So we probably went, a year or two, I would buy a lot of things for everybody and then divvy it up. We'd buy it in bulk and I would divvy it up. Then I started to realize, you know what? There's a market here because I can't find this in my own country. So I started buying more bulk and divvying it up to more people. Then I started to buy more and I started to sell it at one of my friend's gyms on Front Road. And a lot of people liked it. And things started to kind of change a little bit because the quality started to suffer. And I guess that was what I ended up coming to find out. That was just simply a proponent of poor quality control coming from the United States. So then I shifted my focus out of the US and I started private labeling this product with a Canadian company out of Quebec. And I wouldn't say I had the same level of quality control issues out of Quebec, but I had the same type of quality control issues, less of them though, but more service issues. So in response to that, I ended up, at that point in time, I had owned, I'd recently purchased a package of real estate. I renovated some of the real estate myself and pulled out equity. And then I ended up buying I pulled out about $30,000 equity out of that portfolio. And then I ended up buying a $28,000 blender. I was doing all of this stuff out of my house. And then the extra $2,000 of that $30,000 ended up going towards the first month's rent for a 2,000 square foot warehouse where I put the blender.
At that point in time, what was the split in sales between your online store versus, did you sell in a storefront as well?
So once I realized that I had something because people were interested in buying the product at that gym that I was referencing, I started a website. And the website at the beginning was not doing so well. And this was at a time a little bit before the 2008 that there was still a level of unknown and people didn't trust purchasing over the internet at this point yet. So, and it was really interesting a really interesting point in time as well because social media was really in its infancy. I mean, Facebook wasn't even really out yet. Or it was out, but it was only really accessible to student bodies, universities, colleges, whatever. So in response to the website not doing very well, I had opened a store on Google, and the store started to do very well. So what I would do is I would work an 8-10 hour shift at the store, and then at night I would spend anywhere from 8 to 10 hours packaging product that I would make at the facility that I had rented with the blender to stock the store for the next day. And that went on for, quite a while. But then I ended up getting on a few discussion boards in Canada and I ended up advertising through those discussion boards, gave some people that, were moderators or, any members with clout on that board, some free product and asked for their honest opinions, and they really liked the product. And at that point, things started to shift. The online sales started to pick up, nothing crazy. But it was that moment that I realized that in order for me to scale the store, there'd be a lot more work involved and slower growth. Whereas if I focused more on the e-commerce store, that the reach would be substantial and the reach would scale much quicker.
And was it always called Canadian Protein?
No. So in the beginning, it was actually called TrueSupplements.com. And then I named both the website truesupplements.com and the store truesupplements.com. Then I ended up changing the store name to Supplement Depot, which some of you might actually remember. And then went to Vegas one summer and was staying at one of the casinos at the end of the strip, and was walking down and had to go to the bathroom. And across the street was a McDonald's, and the people that I was with were like, okay, well, I'll grab a coffee anyways from McDonald's or get something. And then I was like, all right, I'll go to the bathroom at McDonald's. And literally, as I was on the toilet in McDonald's, I was thinking to myself, because at this point in time, I was doing all the work. I was doing all of the coding for the website. I was doing all the Photoshop for the website, advertising, marketing, all that stuff. And I was doing all of the SEO work. So at that point, I had a good amount of familiarity with how SEO worked. And I was very much under the impression that people were in Canada searching for the term Canadian protein. And I bought that domain name at that McDonald's sitting on the toilet.
CanadianProtein.com.
CanadianProtein.com.
Wow.
Yeah.
How much did you buy the domain for?
$9. Yeah.
So then now after you bought the domain, CanadianProtein.com, walk me through kind of the next, call it 5-6 years of what that looked like scaling now CanadianProtein.com.
Yeah. So the next 5-6 years were actually really tough. And it was really tough because that's when a lot of regulations were coming out in the nutritional space. So getting, proficient with navigating the regulations and understanding how true GMP manufacturing actually works was quite the uphill battle, to be quite honest. Just simply starting with only a few people to help out, essentially, friends and even a family member, which I don't advocate bringing in family members. Yeah, I mean the next 5 to 6 years were pretty tough. And I also do remember hitting the milestones, the 1 million. And what's odd is I remember it, but I remember not feeling the way that I thought I would feel. Right? I felt like there was so much more that needed to be done hitting those milestones that it wasn't a weight off my shoulder. It wasn't like a breath of fresh air. It was like, okay, we hit 1 million. Now we got to hit 10. Then we hit 10. Now we got to hit, 20. It wasn't a situation where a lot of people think once they hit those milestones, it's like a breather. It was not for me at all. Mm-hmm. If anything, it was more intense, to be quite honest.
And then in terms of the last couple of years, how have your goals shifted in terms of scaling Canadian Protein compared to maybe when your team was a lot smaller, call it 10, 15 employees versus now what we have going on today?
So, it's been really intense, but, obviously we have great people at the helm, you, Dave, like all these, Jordan, Ram, like a lot of these guys are, taking things to the next level because they're the right people with the right skill set to be able to do so. There's less drama at the facility. There's way more efficiencies that are involved, which I've realized were probably the drama, the lack of efficiencies, the lack of stellar customer service that we've tried to implement for years but never effectively did it. Those have been absolute game changers over the course of even these last couple of years. Mm-hmm.
And what would you say are your goals now over the next 5 to 10 years with Canadian Protein?
Well, we've got a couple big contracts coming up. We've gotten in with Costco, which is huge. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're going to be University of Windsor's official athletic department sponsor for all of their varsity athletes. I can't see why Canadian Protein can't be doing $100 million in revenue per year within the next couple of years, 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 years. And once you add that on with Costco, Costco's contract is upwards of a $50 million contract, in revenue per year. As part of that scaling, we're going to be going after, emerging markets, including India, China, Mexico, Europe. I mean, these are countries that have expressed desire to purchase our product, but what we're lacking right now is the infrastructure to be able to get it to them, which is what we're currently working on. Mm-hmm.
And what would you say the value of the company will be once that we're hitting that target in terms of Canadian revenue, international markets, Costco contract?
I can't see why it wouldn't be $1 billion.